8 years ago, my home became a sanctuary for my girlfriend's younger brother and his wife. He had just left the Marines, having spent a few years in support and base-related work after high school. He arrived with a plan that sounded reasonable, even noble. He was going to use his GI Bill to get a real education, find a long-term career path, and use our house as a temporary landing pad while he figured it all out. We didn't just open the door. We threw everything we had behind them. We provided a place to live with no rent, covered the utilities, the internet, and the food. We spent our evenings cooking meals for them and our free time scouring for job opportunities and resources, offering every scrap of encouragement we could muster. We wanted him to succeed. But the thing about the word temporary is that if you don't define it, it can stretch indefinitely. Slowly, the months turned into years. The education he planned never materialized. The serious job search never began. Instead, he retreated. He drifted into a world of gaming that eventually swallowed his entire existence. His life became a mirror image of a normal person's. He would stay awake until the sun began to bleed through the curtains, finally collapsing into sleep just as the rest of the world was starting their day. He'd wake up around 3 p.m., a ghost in his own home, slipping into the shadows to avoid any guests who happened to visit. While he was drifting, his wife was drowning. She worked full-time as a cashier, carrying the entire financial weight of their lives on her shoulders. Eventually, the weight became too much. She cheated and left him, telling him plainly that she could no longer feel anything for a man who had lost every ounce of ambition and passion for life. Now, look, cheating is wrong. I don't condone it, but as I watched the wreckage of their marriage, I understood how deep, corrosive resentment builds when you spend years carrying a grown man who refuses to walk. After the divorce, he had a moment of clarity. He admitted he had wasted years of his life and promised, with a sincerity that felt real at the time, that he wanted to change. Once again, we stepped up. We supported him through the heartbreak and the shame. Then, my girlfriend's parents moved back onto the property to provide him with emotional support. The house had originally been bought by them years ago before being transferred into our names. So while the deed says it's ours, the emotional ghosts of family attachment still linger in every room. Fast forward to today, and the scenery hasn't changed. He is 28 years old, and he is still spending nearly every waking hour in that room, lost in a screen. For years, I've tried to bring this up to my girlfriend. I've tried to express my concern, but the conversations always end the same way. She either gets angry at me for even mentioning it, or she offers a vague shield of excuses, telling me he's working on a study program, or figuring things out. But these plans are like mirages. The closer you get to them, the more they vanish. Even her parents have reached a breaking point. They've admitted they're tired of talking to him because nothing ever changes. I feel like I'm living in a strange echo chamber where everyone recognizes the house is on fire, but nobody wants to be the one to pick up the fire extinguisher. 2 weeks ago, I decided I had had enough of the silence. Since my girlfriend and I pay for basically all the utilities, including the internet, I went into the settings and quietly set a Wi-Fi bedtime pause from midnight to 6 a.m. I honestly didn't think it would be an issue. I figured it would affect no one but him, since the rest of us sleep like normal adults. I was wrong. My girlfriend was livid, not because of the brother's stagnation, but because I had done it without consulting her. She told me she couldn't sleep because the tension in the house caused by the Wi-Fi pause was too much to bear. Then, she told me about her childhood, how her grandparents had controlled every aspect of the household in ways that left her feeling trapped and devoid of freedom. To her, a simple internet timer wasn't about a lazy adult. It was a trigger that brought back those old, suffocating memories. I listened. I told her I understood, and I agreed that what her grandparents had done was unfair. But then I looked at her and told her the truth. She isn't a child anymore, and neither is her brother. I tried to make her see that this wasn't a parent punishing a teenager for staying up too late. This was a 28-year-old man who had spent nearly a decade avoiding the basic requirements of adulthood while the people who love him financially cushioned every single consequence of his failure. The frustration of years finally boiled over, and I told her something that had been simmering in my gut. Somehow, everyone in this house can sleep peacefully while watching her brother waste his entire life isolated in a bedroom, but pausing the internet for 6 hours is suddenly the unbearable problem. She thinks I'm being cruel to someone who might be depressed. I think we've all spent years enabling a slow-motion self-destruction because none of us wanted to be the bad guy. I have to ask, am I the asshole? Since sharing this, I've been overwhelmed by the response. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. I've spent the last few days reading through the comments, trying to reflect on the situation with a clear head instead of just reacting from a place of anger. A lot of you asked about the ownership of the house. I'll admit I was a bit vague about the details initially, mostly to protect the anonymity of everyone involved, but I hope you can understand that. After processing your perspectives, I sat down with my girlfriend last night. It was a heavy, serious conversation about our future and what I expect moving forward. I told her, as clearly as I could, that I cannot continue to live in a situation where one person refuses to take any accountability, while everyone else is expected to carry the burden. To be clear, my frustration isn't about a rough patch. It's about the total lack of initiative from her brother despite a decade of help. I know people go through dark times. I've tried to be patient and supportive, but there comes a point where the effort has to come from the individual. I told my girlfriend that if nothing changes, I will have to move out. We will have to separate our living arrangements. As painful as that was to say, it was necessary. This situation cannot continue indefinitely without structure, accountability, and actual, visible effort. We now have a plan. We are establishing real deadlines and measurable steps for her brother to address his life instead of avoiding it. Following the advice of many of you, the first thing we are pushing him toward is VA resources. From there, we've discussed career workshops and employment assistance programs, actual tools to help him build stability. I made it clear to her, I am more than willing to support someone who is actively trying to climb out of the hole, but I will no longer enable someone who refuses to even try. I love my girlfriend and her family, and that's why I stayed patient for so long, but I've realized that I have to protect my own future, my finances, and my mental health, too. For now, I'm done listening to promises. I'm looking for actions.